Good morning, everyone. I'm Kiersten Wise. I'm an extension plant pathologist from the University of Kentucky, and today I'm going to be sharing my research on drone fungicide efficacy in corn. And as I'm sure it's in many cases in Tennessee, in Kentucky, we have been using fungicides in corn for many years to control diseases of corn like southern rust and gray leaf spot. And one of the things that we have noticed is that it's hard to get fungicide in every field. Many of our fields are smaller, they're surrounded by trees or power lines or in small areas. And the majority of our applications are applied aerially through helicopters or fixed wings, but they sometimes can't go into those types of field. And so there's some fields that are left unprotected from some of our foliar diseases. And so in 2019, I was contacted by one of our county agents from a commercial drone application unit that had been established in central Kentucky. And they had primarily been using the drones to apply fungicide for wheat for fusarium head blight or scab. And a lot of people in the county had been wondering, well, could this also work in corn? You know, this is a particular part of the state that has those small fields that's hard to get aerial applications in. And so they were wondering, could this be a way that we could get fungicides on corn in these areas where we can't use aerial applicators? And so we established a fungicide application trial in 3 counties that you can see here on the screen. These are Adair, Greene, and Taylor County. And we had some brave farmers that were willing to let us use their fields, establish some replicated, randomized plots within those fields where we had sprayed with the drone with an application of Trivapro at the standard timing that we think of for corn foliar fungicide applications, which would be at that tasseling early silking timing. One of the things I was really concerned about with the drone applications was, could we get good canopy penetration? Meaning, are we able to get the fungicide all the way down to the ear leaf of the plant, which is where we need to protect? Remember, the ear leaf and above in the corn canopy is what we need to keep free of diseases past tasseling. And so we actually put some water sensitive paper that you can kind of see here on the screen onto those leaves so that we could measure coverage. And I also wanted to know, even if we're able to get the fungicide down there, are we able to actually have fungicide efficacy? Meaning, are we seeing reductions in the diseases that we're trying to control? So we went back and rated disease in that dose stage and also took yield data. Our drone that we used from the commercial applicators was a DJI model drone. It had a 15-foot boom. We used a 3-gallon per acre carrier volume, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. That is a robust carrier volume for many of our aerial applicators. And then we used a standard flat fan nozzle. The boundaries of the field were marked. You can see here, you know, we marked where the applications would be sprayed, and the commercial application unit, the company, applied the fungicide according to that plot plan. Now, like I mentioned, we were looking mostly for proof of concept with this. And so were we getting that canopy penetration that we would expect to see? And so you can see here, this is an example of one of the spray cards that was on the ear leaf. And we were looking for a target density of 50 droplets per centimeter squared. And you can see, you know, in most of our examples, we were able to get that level of density of coverage that we were hoping to obtain. And coverage varied, as many of you know, when we're thinking of coverage with corn leaves, there's a lot of different orientations, and sometimes they can get flipped. So our coverage ranged from 1.9 to 12.9% across all these cards, which is pretty consistent from what we see when we're using these cards and testing canopy penetration with some of our ground application tests that we do here at the University of Kentucky. Now, if we're looking at disease control, I'll go through each of these counties individually. Here we're looking at the treatment of, you know, the fungicide versus the control plots where we didn't spray any fungicide at all, and then how much gray leaf spot was there at the end of the year, you know, thinking about dose stage. And in Greene County, this was a a June planted trial, so very late for our area. We didn't have a lot of disease, but you can still see that the fungicide application applied by drone did reduce the amount of disease that was there compared to where there was nothing sprayed at all. Because there wasn't much disease pressure, there wasn't a statistical difference in yield that you can see here, but we were seeing the fungicide efficacy that we would expect to see from an aerial application. Now, our Taylor County location, they had planted a hybrid that was very susceptible to gray leaf spot, and we did have a very high level of disease. So you can see where we didn't have any fungicide, almost 23% disease severity on that ear leaf by the dose stage. So that's a lot of disease, and you can see the fungicide application did a good job of reducing that. And because there was a lot of disease, we actually did see a significant increase in yield, almost a 22 bushel an acre gain. And just as an aside, this particular farmer in Taylor County, he was so impressed with the drone fungicide application that he now contracts all of his corn acres to be applied by drone fungicide. So he was sold that this was a workable option. In Adair County, it was a location where it was a little bit drier. So again, not a lot of disease, but you can still see there was enough gray leaf spot that we did see a significant reduction in the amount of disease by using a fungicide applied by drone. And so again, the fungicide efficacy was there, even if we weren't seeing those statistically significant yield responses in some of these trials. So what we found with this, basically with the proof of concept, which is what we wanted to achieve, that yes, we are able to get the comparable level of coverage and canopy penetration from the drone application method, similar to what we would see with our ground applications, a ground application response. And we did see efficacy, which is what we want to see. With that fungicide worked, it reduced gray leaf spot in all of our trial locations. And so when we're thinking about, is this a viable option for farmers to use to control corn diseases? Yes, we're able to get the product where it needs to be. And yes, we're able to see the fungicide efficacy. Now, it follows a similar trend to what we see with all of our fungicide applications in corn, whether we're applying them aerially or ground or by drone. Where disease pressure is high, that's where you're going to see the highest yield responses. Again, if you think back to that susceptible hybrid in Taylor County, we saw a very significant, double-digit yield response because we had a lot of disease pressure. We did learn some lessons, and because of time, I can't go into all of those, but I would encourage you to check out our publication PPA 50 through the University of Kentucky that summarizes a lot of this research and also talks about some of the considerations if you're thinking about using drone fungicide applications in corn. Some things we learned about overlap, meaning that there were some unprotected edges at the edges of each of the application passes, but this would be similar to an aerial application with a fixed wing or helicopter and even ground application. Drone reliability is a big concern. I've talked with a lot of farmers, depending on the model or the company that's doing the application, whether or not the drone is working when you need it to work or whether it's doing what you are asking it to do is a bit of concern. But again, that's no different than any of our equipment that we're using in agriculture. Sometimes it breaks down when we need it the most. And so thinking about reliability is a key factor in this when you're investing in these applications. I mentioned the carrier volume earlier in the talk, and I want to come back to that because our results are based on a 3 gallon per acre carrier volume, which is likely why we saw such good canopy penetration. I'm not sure if you would see those same results if you were contracting or using a drone application unit that was applying at 1 gallon per acre or even 2 gallons per acre in a carrier volume. And that's something that we actually have research in 2022. So this year we have a test out to look at that canopy penetration and fungicide efficacy on different carrier volumes, comparing those lower carrier volumes to some of the higher carrier volumes. So that would be one item that's still, we're still learning about to know what the minimum carrier volume we can use to still see that canopy penetration and fungicide efficacy that we would expect to see. So we're still learning about this. Stay tuned. We still have some work to do, but I think, we were able to show that this is another application method that farmers can use to apply fungicides in corn. I want to acknowledge the farmers and the county agents that helped us and get this all lined up and get the work done. And if you have any questions or need any more information, please feel free to contact me with the information on the screen. Thank you.